Hello and welcome to episode 11 of Film Stop. Today we're going to talk about a movie that you should watch out for, a movie that you should perhaps watch in the theaters, and a movie that can maybe wait until it comes out on video on demand for your viewing. But before we do so, please remember to like, share, subscribe, review, rate, comment, all of those things on whatever podcast feed you're listening to us on, whether it's iTunes, Google Play Music, Spreaker, Stitcher, YouTube, all of the above. So let's start by doing something we haven't done before in this show, which is reviewing a trailer. Earlier this week, a trailer dropped at CinemaCon that has created insane amounts of buzz. This is a movie that most nerds and superhero movie fans have been waiting for since its announcement, and is finally out there for the world to see. I guess the trailer is out there for the world to see. The movie is Joker. It's one directed by Todd Phillips, who is the director of the Hangover trilogy. I always confuse it with Hunger Games trilogy. Not the content, but the name. So the movie is directed by Todd Phillips and stars Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker. This, for those of you who don't know, which I'm not sure there are many of, Joker is a supervillain from the DC Comics universe, specifically a Batman nemesis. And the movie is touted to be unlike any other DC movie, well, I guess any other superhero movie. It's supposed to be a very intimate character study of Joker and his origin story. Now, I'm going to be honest here. I wasn't really looking for a Joker origin story. What I got from The Dark Knight was more than enough for me to understand Joker as best as I want to, and I am a huge fan of Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker, as we've talked about before. So, wasn't eagerly waiting for this movie until it was announced, and the names that were announced are connected with it. So, initially, there was Martin Scorsese, who was executive producing this content, and as soon as Joaquin Phoenix got attached to it, I had a lot more investment into, or I guess a lot more interest into the content that was being produced here. And then Todd Phillips got attached to it, and I didn't know what to think of it until this week. So the trailer, if you haven't seen it, go out there and watch it. It's on YouTube. If you're a fan of psychological thrillers or creepy movies, or really well done character studies, this one seems like it's all of them. It's gritty, it's dark, it's, like I said, creepy. It's very intense, but it's also got this very poetic vibe to it. Something very lyrical about it. Maybe it's because Joaquin Phoenix is seen dancing in more than one shot, or because of the background song. I don't know what it is, but it seems as though Todd Phillips is really trying to visualize the world from Joker's perspective, which intrigues me. So, like I was saying earlier, I didn't need this story, but now that I've seen the trailer and I know who's attached with it, I'm very excited. Also, it has a very Taxi Driver feel to it, and I think maybe I'm giving it more emphasis than it should be given, but because Martin Scorsese was attached to it at some point, I feel like there is that Taxi Driver-ish feel to the whole thing. Not to mention the greenish tint the movie has. And I really liked the way they incorporated, just very subtly, the DC universe. So you see the Arkham Hospital, you see what I think, the kid who's Bruce Wayne, you see him there with Joaquin Phoenix's character, or Joker, basically, putting a smile on his face. And then I think there's some interesting, this is my thought of my interpretation of it, I think there's some interesting nods to Dark Knight. Of course, put a smile on that face, the portion with the dance moves that he has towards the end, where he does the little ballet move with his foot and his little jump on the stairs that is very reminiscent of Heath Ledger's performance of Joker from The Dark Knight. Maybe I'm reading into it. Maybe it's not that. But I really enjoyed the trailer. I am very excited for what comes next. The movie is out in October 4th, I believe. And I'm also good. I'm sold on the movie. I don't want to see any more trailers. I actually don't want to see any more footage from the movie. I just want to go in completely clean slate on it and enjoy it for what it is. Anyways, so that's my spiel on the trailer. I hope you go out and watch the trailer and tell me what you think about it. Let's move on to the next topic. Hotel Mumbai. So this is a movie on the 2008 Mumbai terror attacks, also referred to as 26/11, where a group of terrorist attacks that took place in November 2008 when 10 members of Lashkar-e-Taiba, an Islamic terrorist organization based in Pakistan, carried out a series of 12 coordinated shootings and bombings that lasted about 4 days across the heart of Mumbai. The attacks were globally condemned, and at least 174 people died, including 9 of the attackers themselves, and more than 300 were wounded. Out of the 10 attackers, the one that survived was also captured in for questioning, and that's, I guess, a different story in itself. But that's what the movie is based on. And more specifically, out of the 6 locations that were targeted, the movie really spends its majority of its time at this hotel called the Taj Palace Hotel in Mumbai, which is one of the most prominent heritage 5-star luxury hotels in Mumbai, and it, in many ways is a landmark for the city. And the movie follows a couple of key characters. These characters include a head chef, a head server, maybe he's not a head server, but a server, a couple of families that are staying in the hotel, I guess one young family with an infant, a sitter or nanny, and a Russian special agent, special ops officer, something. He's a character that I'm not quite sure of. But in general, the movie revolves around these few characters and of course, the terrorists themselves. So, overall, it's hard for me to objectively say whether or not I quote-unquote enjoyed the movie or had, I guess, was entertained, because as I've mentioned before, I am from Mumbai, so for some reason, I think sitting in that theater, it was too visceral for me. All of it was too real for me, and I'm not going to shy away from saying that there were a couple of times when I couldn't hold back tears. And I don't know, I can't objectively again say that if the movie is as good. I just think that it was too close of a subject for me. That said, I think that there were things in the movie that took me out of it, specifically these jarring inner cuts of real footage that is, I'm not quite sure why it was so abruptly layered with recreated footage. It was very jarring, and it was taking me out a couple of times. I think some of the dialogues were clunky. I also feel that some of the characters were very caricaturish. But again, I think the entire theater that I was watching, and I was watching in a fairly packed theater for a movie that is so niche in its target. I think the theater was pretty packed, and I think the entire theater was pin drop silence throughout the movie, and I could hear sobs, and I could feel tension in the air. So I guess that's testament to what the director was trying to do. The performances were pretty good. I feel that someone like Dev Patel has created a kind of like his corner, his niche in doing movies such as this, where he plays a prominent Indian character surrounded by odds that may be foreign to the character. I liked him. I think he was fairly good. I really liked Nazanin Boniadi, who I couldn't pinpoint where I've seen her before, but I knew once I went back home and I did some research, I was like, oh yeah, that's where I've seen her. So I've seen her in Iron Man, the movie Iron Man 1, and she's also in Homeland, so I've seen a couple of seasons of that show. She was really good. I really liked her. I really believed her as she was going through these different phases of, a mother's, I guess, different stages of fear for her family as a mother. I really, I thought Armie Hammer was very understated, and he was good. I also enjoyed the actors who played the terrorists, specifically Amandeep Singh and Suhail Nair. It was a good ensemble, and it's very hard to pick things that didn't seem to work for me. But I think, like I mentioned earlier, there were some jarring intercuts with real documented footage, which just took me out of it. Maybe it was because of just when they were placed in and what they were showing. I also wasn't a fan of how limiting in its approach the movie was, because it really kept you locked into the hotel, which is fine. I get that from building the tension point of view, but I think from understanding the scope of the event, I think they should have shown what was happening outside as well a little bit more. They tried to show it, but it wasn't. I just felt like it wasn't enough. A couple of things that I liked in terms of the themes. I liked that they really touched upon the voices on the headsets and the control that these voices on these headsets, who were basically talking to the terrorists as they were conducting these attacks, they were really controlling them, in almost as if they're puppeteers and these are just their puppets, and you get that sense a couple of times. You get that sense of all these guys were basically young, brainwashed, foolish men who were being controlled by people who or perhaps, I mean, they're definitely evil, but there's this inner struggle that these young, foolish, brainwashed men have, or boys have, versus this very cold, calculated thought process that is controlling them via these headsets. I thought it was interesting how they brought in the religion aspect into it. Some places it was a little jarring. It was very preachy. Some places it seemed like it made sense. I really liked this one sequence where Dev Patel's character, who is a Sikh, gets confused to be misconstrued to be a terrorist, and he kind of goes into this tangential explanation of his own family. I really liked it. I liked that scene, the way it was shot, the way it was placed. Things like those scenes, the way they were handled, they seemed really well handled, as opposed to certain very weird, jarring choices. Like the Russian character, he just seems so out of place to me. I don't know if that's a true story of someone who was actually in this, caught up in these attacks, or if that was just something that they created as some sort of, I don't know, exposition. I don't know what they were trying to do with that character. It just didn't work for me. At the end, look, there's certain events in recent history that kind of shook the core of, I mean, it sounds very cliche, but like it shook the core of humanity. And this one specifically, what happened in Mumbai, was devilish. It was a devilish act, and it will not be forgotten for years. the movie does a fair job at portraying the horrors of that night, or those nights/days. I can't say if it's a movie that that will, be remembered forever as a movie, as a good piece of art or cinema. I do think that you should watch it. Maybe wait for it for video on demand. You don't need to go to the theaters to watch it. But I really hope that more people watch it. I will say this, that it kind of, at the end, it really felt like the movie was produced by Tata Industries, just because of its, I don't know, weird emphasis on Taj Hotel. Just my, I guess, 2 cents on that. I don't know how much of that is true or not. Anyways, so a movie that you can wait for video on demand, but when it does come out, I implore you to go watch it. Let's move on to the last segment of this episode, which is Shazam. A complete shift in tone from Hotel Mumbai, Shazam is the story of a foster kid, Billy Batson, who is chosen by a wizard and the protector of the 7 realms to protect the 7 realms and become Shazam. Yes, that's the name of the superhero. So this is the next entry in the lineup of DC superhero movies, and is a far lighter version of any DC movie you may have seen to this point. It's our second DC discussion today. I mean, we talked about Joker, but this one is completely different from that. It's a very comic take on a character that I think inherently is supposed to be funny. Really, it's the movie Big meets Superman. The movie is a fun one-time watch. I would say that it's mainly for the kids, and the charisma of the movie rests entirely on the shoulders of Zachary Levi. If you've watched the series Chuck, you know who I'm talking about. He's a fun, energetic guy who I think he's just playing himself in this movie, because I've seen him in a few interviews and he seems to be this guy. He seems to be Shazam, or Billy Batson. I enjoyed the movie. I think that the movie is one where you should go with your kids, nieces, nephews, whoever, because I think you'll really see them enjoy the movie, which will end up being reason why you enjoy the movie. I watched the movie with another grown-up adult and guy, and we both were just probably some of the oldest members in the theater at the time, which is creepy. I enjoyed the movie. I think that the movie is well directed, especially by a guy who is known for his horror film direction, David Sandberg. If you've seen Lights Out or Annabelle Creation, which is arguably the best Annabelle movie out of the 3, which I guess is not much to say. But I think he does a good job with the comedy. I think he does a good job with building the dramatic scenes and the portions, which brings me to the next part of this review. I really enjoyed the 2 main themes that this movie is touching upon. One is this really foster family aspect, and this other one, which is really a deconstruction of a superhero movie. Let me explain these 2 a little bit. So the movie is tethered to this, what is family? This question of what is family, because it's about a foster kid who is constantly running away from foster homes until he comes to this foster family foster home. There's multiple kids here and a very loving couple that's taking care of them, a couple that themselves were foster kids at one point. You have this very interesting dynamic of the mom, the dad, and these kids, and there's this really cool sequence where there's a sticker on mom's van which says, I'm a foster mom, what's your superpower? Which to me really kind of encapsulates the message of the movie in many ways. I really enjoyed that aspect, and I think that the payoff of those kids and really developing the characters of each one of those, taking the time to develop the characters of each one of those characters, the payoff of that really works well at the end. I'm not going to say anything, but I think that if they hadn't done that, if they hadn't taken the time to do that, I think the movie would have, or at least the climax would have kind of just fallen flat. Love the dynamic between Freddie and Billy Batson. So that is Asher Angel and Jack Dylan Grazer. They play off of each other really well. And I think Asher Angel, who plays Freddie, and Jack Dylan Grazer, who plays Freddie, him and Zachary Levi, they both had really good chemistry too. So I think that's testament to good performance and good direction. I think if that wouldn't have worked, the second theme, which is the deconstruction of a superhero movie, would have completely fallen flat. And by deconstruction of a superhero movie, what I mean is and you may have noticed this from the trailers too, but they're really breaking apart each fundamental plot device that a superhero movie has, whether it's a evil supervillain or the usual superpowers and what they really mean. And there's this one sequence where Shazam, or Zachary Levi, he tries to protect a civilian, a woman who looks like she's being mugged, and realizes only that she's got her back. She's all good by herself. I really like those little sequences here and there, really making fun of some of the things that most superhero movies take very seriously, which is what was surprising to me. I think this turn in the way DC is approaching their content is interesting, because this is, like I mentioned earlier, definitely the lightest of all DC movies that I've seen, but it's definitely in this sort of furthering this direction that Wonder Woman started, and then Aquaman continued on, and then this one just takes it that much further. That said, there are portions where the sequences felt a little tedious, the jokes seemed to fall flat, and my biggest criticism was that Zachary Levi and his younger version, who is Asher Angel, both feel quite different in terms of how they're portraying the same character. What I mean is that Asher Angel plays the younger version of Shazam, the boy who is quite serious and intense and mopey, and Zachary Levi plays the superhero version of the same character. And I just felt like they both were two different people, even though it was the same person going through the same phases in life. That seemed a little weird to me. It was just misaligned a little bit. And I think that might be chalked up to just the direction, and I think David Sandberg might have let Zachary Levi go too far to let him play Zachary Levi. Moving on, I really enjoyed Mark Strong. He took a very cookie-cutter, evil supervillain character and made him fun to watch. I may be biased. I always enjoy Mark Strong. Mark Strong is, you may have seen him in movies such as Kingsman. He's a very strong artist, and he's very good as Dr. Savannah here. I really liked that they gave enough time for his origin story to build up to, so his choices as a supervillain actually do make sense to some extent. I also liked the way David Sandberg portrayed the 7 deadly sins. So it's not a new concept in movies, but this one, I really liked the art on all the 7 deadly sins, and I think that kind of makes sense knowing the background that David Sandberg comes from. And last but not the least, there's this little girl who plays this character of Darla in the movie. She's one of the foster kids. She steals every single scene that she's in, and that's all I'm going to say. I think she's beautiful, she's amazing, just watch out for her. She's the cutest thing on earth. Every time she comes on screen, she lights it up. So I'm excited to see what she does next. Okay, final thoughts. Shazam is a fun one-time watch in the theaters. If you're looking for something really light, relaxing, and funny to watch this week in the theaters, look no further. Shazam is a good watch. If you don't catch it in the theaters, I wouldn't lose sleep over it. Video on demand would probably do just as much justice. And with that, we've reached the end of this episode. If you have any thoughts on any of these movies, would like to agree or disagree with my thoughts, or have a friendly debate, join us on our Facebook community and let me know what you think. And as always, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, review, comment, rate, wherever you find us. Until the next episode, guys. Catch you later.